them to invent new little handheld toys so I can watch Dexter and Jon Stewart on an airplane. And we need them to create really cool 3D films starring scantily clad blue people. And that's how the world works. Everyone figures out what is their goal, what leads to fulfillment, and they just reach that. And if the world needs you to be fulfilled, and you'll feel better about yourself if you are, do you really even need to be happy? Now let's speed this up a bit. Let's go to question number 3. Do you need to be cool? Now, as Ms. Felice just mentioned, I gave up on coolness back in October 1998. It just wouldn't take. And I found embracing my inner dork was a heck of a lot easier. And if the producers of Glee have any say, in the next couple of years, they'll be able to teach the true art of being a tool. But there's a pretty easy way to find out if you're actually meant for coolness. You go home, you look in the mirror, and you say, it's Friday. And if by chance you sound like our esteemed Dutch PE teacher, Dr. Kreens, coolness is in your future. But if not, if you're like the rest of us mortals, you might just have to realize that the rest of your life is going to be a string of cringingly awkward moments and ultimate fails. Question number 4, are you a whiner? Do you complain about stupid stuff? Here's my own personal whining litmus test. I like to call it TTS-WRTAP. It's the total time spent whining ratio to actual problem test. TTS-WTRP, it's actually Tap, and it actually has a catchy ring to it. I was thinking of writing a book and possibly going on the international school lecture tour. But basically, here's how Rap works. You ask yourself, do you spend more minutes whining about a problem than the minutes actually impact your daily life? If you do, could you stop? Please, you're ignoring everybody. Or annoying, I think is the word. Now, if not, could you just start the conversation with, okay, I don't mean to complain, but there's this issue that only impacts my life for 2 minutes, but I like to waste 15 minutes of your life. And that'd be a nice way to start a conversation. Question number 5, let's head to your personal lives for a bit, because really that's where I truly am an expert of the 272 of you. When you think about getting married in 9.63 to 9.85 years, how will you treat your marriage? Will you follow the 3 A's, where only adultery, addiction, or abuse will lead to the end of the nuptials? Will you make a deal with your spouse that you will agree to fall in and out of love until you both hit the grave? Or will you treat your marriage as your own personal episode of Jersey Shore? Now, hopefully you've noticed so far I'm intentionally leaving out a lot of gray area between these 2 options. And it's between these 2 extremes where you'll make the bulk of your decisions. Life exists in the gray area of decision making. Now, you also need to know that as your life situation changes, your answers to these questions will likewise change. Ralph Waldo Emerson in Self-Reliance, he didn't just talk about an iron string. He also said that you need to speak what you think now in hard words, and tomorrow, speak what tomorrow thinks in hard words again, even if it contradicts everything you said today. Which leads me to question number 6. When you know you've messed up, when you know you've erred, when you discover your original decision, which was based on partial or inaccurate evidence, has been proven wrong, what will you do? Will you admit your mistake, admit your humanity, and let logic be your guide, or will you hold fast to your error to avoid appearing fickle? Will you potentially cleverly interpret or manipulate evidence to justify your choice? I oftentimes worry less about those that conform to others and more about those that conform to the ignorance of their past, all merely to maintain an appearance. How many relationships stall? How many corporations stagnate? How many people are hurt because great men with great ideas they remain enslaved to their prior selves? Are you okay just realizing that you're a work in progress and people will better trust you, better follow you if you admit your mistakes and just move forward? Question number 7. Do you think life is ruled by randomness, or is there a reason for everything? In his book, aptly titled Fooled by Randomness, Nicholas Taleb argued that the outline of our lives is continuously coaxed in new directions by a variety of random events that, along with our responses to them, pretty much determine our fate. But there's many in this room who totally disagree. They believe that every event's happened for a reason. I remember back when Andrew Hallam first got sick, and none of us knew what to think. It didn't make sense. I mean, sure, for many of us, it's okay if fat people get sick. It's okay if, smokers or heavy drinkers or sun worshipers, when they get sick, it makes sense. But Hallam, it didn't make sense for any of us. That guy's like uber dude. And at that moment, I realized that most of us, when we hear bad news, we need to immediately have an explanation so that maybe we believe that our actions can actually shield us from the realities of the randomness of life. And maybe it can, I don't know. Why do you think bad things happen to good people? Okay, question number 8. Actually, let me wait for a second, because some of you are wondering, how many questions does this guy have? Actually, I have a heck of a lot less than I had a month ago, because I'm an overthinking scribbler, and over the last 6 years, I've pretty much written down every possible idea I had on any piece of paper within reach. I have littered back there some graduation programs from years past. I have the air sickness bags from Singapore Airlines. I have pages 138, 139, and 140 of the street directory. I have the June 8th calendar page from my father-in-law's Jewish calendar. It's all just littered with a bunch of just random thoughts. And when I put it all together, it turned out to be 22 pages of rambling, which would have kept me here for 2 hours. Which then Mr. Norcott behind me would be wondering, how am I going to get this guy off stage? And Harry would be over here wondering, what appropriate gift can I put in the shoes of Mr. Burnett outside his classroom? So what I need to do today is give you the abridged version. And what I need you to do is make me a promise that in the next few months, you will, when you're sitting with your newbie friends, or when you're on a date with Miss Thing, or maybe having a final meal with your parents, that you start throwing out your own questions and maybe possibly give some answers. It'll be fun, trust me. Awkward turtle. Okay, next, question number 9. Do you need recognition? Do you need people to know that your successes, do you need to recognize them for you to actually be successful? Every year I've been in these celebrations, someone will stand up and talk about how we've been to SAS, we've been to cultural convention, we have excelled on the sports fields, in the classroom and on stage. Well, you know what? You haven't. Ishan and I actually, with his help, we counted actually how many people actually have been represented in some public way at this school. And 107 of you have, 107. That leads 165 of you that haven't. Are you also not the senior class? A few minutes ago, when you passed Miss Mulchin and Mr. Molly in their NASA-approved headgear, and you made your way down the aisles trying not to trip, do you think a single person cared about your high school resume? No, all we were doing is flipping through the photograph of memories that are stirring around in our noggins for those times where you truly impacted our lives. You don't have to be wearing ropes around your neck to be important to us. And for some of you, the public accolades just haven't come yet. For some, they have already come and they might not come for a while, but for the majority of you, you will never, ever win a public award. Sometimes there can only be one captain of industry, one congressman, one leader, one Lady Gaga. But life will call on you and you will be needed. You might be called on to sit at the bedside of an ailing spouse. You might be called on to bake a batch of brownies for one of your school's 2,642 bake sales. Or you might need to be the assistant coach for your kid's soccer team where your only goal is going to be making sure little Johnny extracts his phalange from his nasal canal. As much as humanity needs you to be the movers and the shakers, it needs some of them to be those leaders. It needs most of us to be the rocks that will offer support. And there's a good chance you will never, ever receive any recognition for your deed. Are you okay with that? Next, do you realize how lucky you are? I'm not saying fortunate, I'm saying lucky.